Hey, Wember World Entertainment. And you remember when James Mangold destroyed the legacy of Indiana Jones with the Dial of Disaster? Yeah, we all do. And of course, he was only filming it for a week and he had already gone on a 24-hour Twitter rant. Remember that? Like literally a week into production and he went off for 24 hours on Twitter, slamming the fans, just going after everybody, calling people basement dwellers, everything. And simply because one group put out the post saying, just remember, this movie is produced by Kathleen Kennedy and not directed by Steven Spielberg, doesn't involve George Lucas, and Harrison Ford is 80. And that had him go off for 24 hours. Talk about soft-skinned. Well, of course, what did Lucasfilm do after he cost them so much money? Yeah, they gave him a Star Wars movie. Now, do I think this movie is actually going to happen? Fuck no. Who the hell believes it's actually going to happen? But he's given an update for the first time in a long time on this movie. And not just is he given the update, but he already takes a bit of a shot at fans. So let's check this out. So in April of 2023, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Disaster and Logan director James Mangold hit the stage at Star Wars Celebration in London and revealed his plans to head into a galaxy far, far away for a story about the first Jedi. While it's been revealed that this untitled Star Wars movie, typically referred to as Dawn of the Jedi, will be set roughly 25,000 years before the events of The Phantom Menace. Few updates have been shared since. That's likely because it's had to compete with both a complete unknown and Swamp Thing for the filmmaker's attention. That means he's directing, or meant to be directing, Swamp Thing for DC and his own project of something. But doing the rounds to promote his Bob Dylan biopic, Mangold told MovieWeb, "To me, the really important aspects are the freedom to make something new. Bo Williamson and I, in relation to Star Wars, have been working on a script and we'll see what happens. Do we find a way on the page to say something original?" Now, isn't that interesting that he adds in the "we'll see what happens"? Remember the last person who said that and then nothing happened was Patty Jenkins. So this article says that is a major challenge with a franchise like this, and it's something many feel Mangold failed to achieve with the final Indiana Jones movie. However, a big part of what sets his Star Wars story apart from others is when it's set. This is what Mangold said about this, and this is also where he takes this shot at the fans. The Star Wars movie would be taking place 25,000 years before any known Star Wars movie takes place. It's an era and a playground that I've always wanted to explore and that I was inspired by as a teenager. I'm not that interested in being handcuffed by so much lore at this point, and it's almost immovable, and you can't please anybody," he added, suggesting his plan is to avoid being tied to the wider franchise. Now, that part of him saying you can't please anybody, that's him immediately taking shots at the Indiana Jones fans and probably Star Wars fans, because he's literally just said, oh, it's basically no matter what I do, they're gonna hate it. That is what he's saying. Again, that's him very soft-skinned taking direct shots at fans because he knows he's got an uphill battle. Him saying I'm not going to be handcuffed by lore, well, unfortunately you are still going to be handcuffed by lore because you may be going back to doing the first Jedi, but there's still things we know the Jedi didn't do and didn't accomplish and stuff. For instance, if he goes back, and this was one of the arguments I had with the Acolyte, if they started to do it. Now they didn't, at least in that first season and the only season, but you could see they were possibly going to try and do it. Force ghosts. If Mangold starts trying to put in Force ghosts, well, you've already got a massive issue there because we know for a fact that the first Jedi to achieve being able to do a Force ghost was Qui-Gon Jinn. That's established. That is lore. You go back and go, well, Or 2,500 years before, or 1,000 years before the Phantom Menace. We're not tied to any of that stuff. We can do what we want, and then they start putting in Force Ghost stuff. You immediately are going to have the fans go, that's wrong, because the first one to do it was Qui-Gon Jinn. You already screw up. And that's also the big issue I have with doing prequels like this and stuff, is they always start adding in stuff that will make no sense then further down the line. I only recently watched, A Quiet Place Day 1. Good movie. However, they did do that one thing that I think is kind of destroys the other movies, which is, if I suppose spoiler if you haven't seen any of the Quiet Places movie, but in the second movie, of course, we find out that the alien creature things can't swim. They cannot go in water. They drown. And of course, you had that little island where everybody was just living happily and they could talk and sing and everything, because it's like, yeah, we're in the perfect spot because they can't get out here because it's surrounded by water. We're on an island. And day one shows you all these helicopters flying over cities and towns and everything with speakers going, get to boats and whatnot because the invaders can't swim. And as soon as that scene happened, I was like, how then did people in the first movie not know that these things couldn't swim? How did people in the second movie not know that these things couldn't swim? It's until they meet someone who goes, oh yeah, we're off the grid, we're over here because they can't swim. You know, you start ruining things. And that's the issue with if they go back and they start trying to add in, oh, lightsabers are built this way, this is where lightsaber kyber crystals, they actually come from this thing instead of that thing. Just look at how angry people got when midi-chlorians were introduced in the prequel movies. When we were told the Force it's always been there. It surrounds us, it binds us, it's an ally, blah blah blah. Compared to, oh yeah, they're these tiny little creatures that live in everything. So Mangold trying to say, oh, we're absolutely not handcuffed. No, you're wrong, you do. And you can't just start throwing stuff in here, there, and everywhere just for the sake of saying, hey, we get to do it first, if it contradicts stuff we already know down the line. Now, it would also be stupid if he added in Sith, but there's only two, because he goes, well, the rule of two. When it's the case of, well, back then, there wouldn't have been a rule of two. The rule of two didn't come on till later. So, yeah, you still have to abide by law. Just because you're going back that far doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want. You still have to follow the rules of the law that are already in place and know what's in place, such as Force Ghosts and stuff. Again, though, do I think this movie's going to happen? No, absolutely not. Yeah, they brought him out onto a stage. Know who else they brought out on stage? Daisy Ridley. Where's that movie? That was meant to be the first Star Wars movie back on the big screen. It's not even going to be the second Star Wars movie on the big screen from everything we're hearing. So I don't think this is going to happen, especially after the disaster that was Indiana Jones. So we'll wait and see what happens. But with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.